Okay, hi again. We're going to look at a different fitting today. It's a transitional cheek elbow. We're going to specifically look at a 90-degree elbow, and the difference with this one, it's a radius throat, radius heel elbow, but it's transitioning in the cheek size. So we're going from maybe 8 inches here up to 4 inches here. At the end of the video, we're also going to look at if we put a drop on this one. So this one is flat on both the top and bottom, but we'll look at it if we had a slope on one of the cheeks and we had to develop that sloped cheek itself. Okay, so we're gonna start off with that one. Now, when we have that transitioning cheek, and it's the case with most elbows that we deal with, let's go 8 by 4 to 4 by 4 on there. Our throat stays consistent. So let's put a 4-inch throat on there. Same as the small opening. And that's pretty standard as well. The throat is no different than just a standard radius throat, radius heel elbow. The change occurs in the heel. And we do the same thing on more advanced fittings. We'll see in level 4 for transitioning elbows and things like that, but we try and transition it in the heel section because it's more acceptable to do that. Okay, so there's our piece. I mean, first off, just like any other elbow, we can come up with our blank size, and if we go 8 and 4, we're 12 inches, and then we're 12 by 8 for a blank. And again, in this video, we're just going to look at the layout portion of it. We're not adding seams or allowances or anything to it. So let's draw out our blank, 12 inches by 8 inches. Okay, there's our blank now. And again, following just like we would on any standard radius throat, radius heel elbow, or even a square throat, square heel. Once we get our blank established, we want to mark out our openings. Okay, so I'm going to mark out my 8 inches down here in my throat, and then I'm going to mark my throat and my opening on this side as well. Now keep it in mind, we always want to measure our openings. You never want to just measure a throat without measuring this opening here. If we made some error somewhere, it'll show up when we measure that opening size. Okay, and that's the last place we want to have an error, is the opening. It's the most important part of the fitting, so we need to make sure that stays what it's supposed to be by 8 and 4. Okay, so let's mark those out. Okay, so it doesn't take much just to get those openings established, especially when we don't have any seams on there. Pretty straightforward. We got our 8 inches here, we got our 4 inches here. Now again, our throat stayed consistent, so I can just pick that up and swing that arc for the throat section. Okay, there we go. Now, the big difference in this one is our heel, of course. And if I picked up my heel section here and swung that, if I swung that arc, it's going to give us a really poor transition here. Or, I mean, my arc's going to go way off the blank, so that's not going to do us any good. But if I just swung that arc there, I got a couple of issues. One, I got a poor transition that air is not going to flow across very well. It's going to get really turbulent around this section here. The second problem we have is we don't know the angle that would hit at. And it'd be really difficult to even calculate it using trigonometry or something else. And we need that angle to calculate the length of this heel. So if we don't have that angle, it becomes really difficult to find that length there. Okay? So what we want to do on this transitioning cheek is make it a 90-degree box here. We want to make it a square so that we can get a true 90-degree arc, which then allows us to calculate the heel length. And the way we do that is I'm going to pick up my small side. I pick up the length of the whole small side. And that's what we're going to base our heel off of. So I take that distance, and from the outside I come inwards. And I'm just going to tick it off. right there. Okay, and even if I squared that up, now I know inside this box is a 90 degree. It's a square. It's equal here compared to here. Okay, so it's not only 90 degrees, but it's truly a square now instead of a rectangle. And when I take and use now this point as my heel radius, I for one get a smooth transition for the airflow. And it gives me the ability to calculate this heel length because it's based off of the small end. A transitioning cheek elbow is always based off the small end for the heel arc. Okay, so that's a common rule that we want to remember. Okay, I'll pick up my heel length. Now I have, within this blue, you can see I have that nice arc there. I know the distance is the same as the distance here because this is a square box. And I get a nice smooth transition here. Now, do we know what that distance is there? Do we know how far of a straight section that we've included in this heel? Yeah, we do. It's the difference between the two ends. The straight section becomes 8 minus 4, or 4 inches here. So now I can calculate this one is based off an 8-inch radius for my 90 degree arc here, plus the straight, which is merely the large minus the small end, because we came over that far. If we took that 8 inches down here, the difference is 4 inches in our case. Okay? So if we just let me clean that up a bit and we'll just look at that fitting without all the pieces to it. So there we go. There's a nice smooth transition. We're changing from 8 to 4 over that 90 degrees. Okay, there's our transitioning cheek elbow.